Joey Balistreri, and I am working today with one of the new collections from Jesse James Beads called Year of the Snake. So I have a few pieces from the collection that I think are going to go into my project, and the plan is to do a set of bracelets that are really elegant and bold and beautiful but very wearable. So a couple of the things that I have here that possibly will go into my project is this Color Classics steel blue bead strand. I'm going to cut that one open, and I also have this midnight green. I think I'm going to want the crystals for that. And then I have this little set of silver spacer beads. Some of them have the regular size hole, and then let me just take them out in my hand, and some of them have these really nice large holes. So I have these here too because I may want to include those when I start my stringing project. So the main thing for these two bracelets is this gorgeous pipe chain, I'm going to call it. It has a hole. It's like a long cylinder and like a pipe that is encrusted with these beautiful crystals in this gorgeous kind of stripy pattern. I just love this. And part of this collection is this stunning clasp. So this is a glue-on clasp, and it fits perfectly on this pipe encrusted crystal. And so I'm going to do a bracelet length of this and add that on, and maybe do just a couple of charms. I'm going to set that one up because it has to glue. And so I'm just going to take like a bracelet length. I need about a 7-inch. So I'm going to take about a bracelet length, and I'm just going to take some scissors and make a cut right there. And I'm going to use my E6000 glue. Just reach behind me. This glue is really wonderful for projects like this because it takes a little bit of time to set up, but it's very, very strong, and it also gives you time to make adjustments to what you have glued. So I think I'm gonna, and I'll just show you, if you guys like this, let me just get something to show you. This does not go through, this opening does not go through to the closure. So you don't have to worry about glue oozing out the part that's going to get a closure. So I think because for that reason, I think I'm going to just direct some of my E6000 glue right into that little space. And I'm going to put one end of my crystal pipe in there. And so isn't it beautiful? So what I like about this glue is that if I needed to turn this or make any adjustments when I do the other end, I have plenty of time to do that. And I'm going to do the same thing. This is also like the other end where the little hole for connecting does not go through. And this crystal pipe is so amazing, you guys, because you can do this with it, but my second bracelet is I'm going to string something through the middle of the pipe. So, and this is what I also love about the E6000 glue. Since I need this to be, you know, a bracelet closure, I can have a little bit of time to make sure that when this is closed, that it's going to do what I need it to do. So that looks really good. I'm going to get everything in place and set this aside to dry while we work on the second bracelet. Okay, take that out and let it dry without any stress. So you could use the gel Loctite super glue for that, but I really like the E6000 because I don't have to like rush in setting things up. And then I am going to take another 2 pieces of this chain, and I'm not going to measure, I'm just going to eyeball about that much. I'll be making 2 loops, and I'm going to create an interlocking bracelet with 2 pieces of this. So I need 2 lengths exactly the same. And I will show you how cool this is. I am going to use some of, let me pull in my little dish where I've collected my things. I'm going to use some of my satin silver Soft Flex 49 strand bead stringing wire. I have just some little cone bead caps with kind of large holes, and I just went through my little box, my stash of bead caps, to find something that fit this, which was not difficult. So, you know, so it looks like that. And this is my 2 lengths of that satin silver 49 strand. And so I'm going to just run this through this little pipe and gather this up and put my bead cap on. I'm going to do a bead cap on each end. So I need 4 of these for this design. So this one will go here, and I'll take another one and go here. And let me cut open my bead strands, because I haven't exactly, as you can see, I didn't really work out my design yet because I hadn't even cut my bead strands open. But there's so much to work with here, both large hole beads and small hole beads, and beautiful spacers on these 2 strands. And so I'm just going to cut them both open, and then I'll have plenty of choices. Okay, I'm going to pull this together, and it's not tight right now, but it will be when I crimp it. Make sure that my end caps are going right over the ends of the cord, and I'm going to pull it tight like that. And I think I might just go ahead and do a crimp before I start selecting my beads. And I'm going to use number 2 crimp tubes in the gunmetal color, and these are also from Soft Flex company. And I'll put a few out here because I'm going to need crimps on the other ends of this bracelet as well. So I'm going to feed my crimp tube on this end and on this end. There we go. I'm just going to get everything in place, get this secure, make sure my bead caps are pulled down really tight over the ends of the pipe chain. I think I'll just do a fold over crimp method here. So I'm just going to put my crimp tube in the back divot and fold that, and then come here and just finish folding it like a little taco. Okay, and now I can select my first bead. So let me just play a little bit with my pattern here. That's really pretty. Okay, I need to do exactly the same thing again on my other half of my crystal pipe. So I'm going to repeat the same steps again, just run my wire through there and thread on a cone end cap. Okay, both of those are crimped, and I've got an idea how I'm going to start my pattern. They're going to interlock this way. Let me get this through just so I can give myself a visual for beginning my stringing. And I have done this design before, and I find that I do better with shorter interlocking loops. They just tend to lay inside each other a little bit better, and I love it for this type of material because it makes this bracelet a little bit chunky, and it really makes a statement. So once I have everything strung, but that's going to be like my fancy bracelet bar, and once I have everything strung, I can kind of adjust this. But I think that I like starting off with a silver spacer and the black bead. So I'm just going to go through these two beautiful bead mixes and come up with combinations of crystal spacers and silver spacers that I like to get to about a 7-inch bracelet. Okay, my little snake bracelet has dried a little bit. With the E6000 glue, you really want to let it sit up overnight before you start wearing it or tugging on it. But I did want to like clasp it and see how it was looking, and it's looking great. And so that was kind of setting up enough for me to look at it while I was working out my bead pattern. I wanted both sides of this to be the same. I knew that using these cone end caps was going to make this a really chunky bracelet, and I love it. It's going to look really like a big cuff. It doesn't look good with my bracelet that I was wearing today, but it's going to look like a really big cuff. So let me see if I can turn my wrist and show you. I made my length just slightly short, and I'm going to create an extender chain by linking some jump rings together and make a little charm for the end, so that way it could be worn looser, but I quite like it as a cuff. And the other thing that I'm going to do when I have everything crimped and everything done, I'm going to come right here where my two interlocking loops meet on each side and put a little bit of that E6000 glue, and I'm going to pull this, you know, exactly the way that I want it to sit on the top of my bracelet and let it sit up so that it's really secure. And the reason for the E6000 glue on a thing like this as opposed to like the gel super glue is that it dries rubbery. It's very, very strong, but it dries rubbery. So on leather pieces, on tube pieces like this, on knotted pieces like with Brazilian wax cord, that little bend and that little movement will not pull the glue apart because it dries really, you know, rubbery, really secure and really strong, but rubbery, so that pulling. But if you don't secure an interlocking loop like this, there's really nothing holding it together. So you would constantly either be pulling it tighter or looser. So that's just something I'm going to do to this piece. And then I did switch. I've already done this end, and I did switch to my magical crimping plier because I like the little tiny bead that it gives me from a 2mm crimp tube. And also I love my soft flex bead stringing wire because it comes in so many fabulous colors, and this silver color just matches everything so beautifully. I did not feel the need to use a wire guardian or to fill the loop with seed beads. I can just let it show and it becomes part of the design. So that's what I'm going to do on this end. There was a little bit of on and off for me. I like to pause the camera when I'm working out a stringing pattern and really take my time, because stringing the beads and deciding on my patterns is one of my loves of jewelry making. So that's what it turned out like, and I just do a little bit of on and off until I have my length, you know, properly adjusted. And so I'm going to do that gunmetal number 2 crimp tube on the wire and make a loop. And also on this piece, I'll show you when I get my loop in place, but usually I like my bracelets to be a little bit looser. I would create this loop. Oh, you know, yeah, I was going to say, you could actually thread this directly onto your lobster claw clasp, but I generally like to do my attachments with a jump ring, and I also like to check and make sure that my lobster claw is functioning. If you thread it right onto here, if this tarnishes or malfunctions, you have to cut the bracelet apart and restring it. But if you do your closures with a jump ring, you can easily open a jump ring if you ever need to make a repair on something. So that's most of the time that's what I'll do. But I digress. What I was saying is that normally I like my when I make this loop and when I'm getting ready to crimp, normally I like to have a little bit of movement, and there is a little bit, like you can see it's not rigid, but since this is so chunky and I want it to be cuff-like, I'm not going to worry about that so much. Like, I don't want my beads to be putting pressure on each other. That's actually pretty good. And so if you're not familiar, I thought this is a cool project because I get a lot of questions about crimping, And this is a cool project to show, like, I felt like I could get into this space where the cones were together a little bit more easily with my Xuron crimping plier. And then on the end, you know, I like that this number 2 crimp tube makes a really pretty little bead. So let me just fit that number 2 tube. I can feel that it's right in the center of that divot, and if it's not in the center, you will not pinch the 4 corners of the tube, making it kind of a square, and you can even mangle it, and then you don't get that pretty bead. But when I close down, and I know it's on a black bead, but when I close down, I have pinched the 4 corners. And then you need to do the same thing again with this tool on this side before you put pressure and actually close it. Like, I can just now feel that that tube is in the opposite direction and centered right in that divot. And now when I close it, I have gone completely in the opposite direction. And then just go around a few times and it's forming that number 2 tube into a little bead. And when you take it away, you have this perfect little bead. And like, I love this because non-jewelry makers cannot tell how this bracelet is held together, you know, because that does not look like it's doing a function. It looks like a seed bead. I just love that. So this is pretty much done except for adding on what I'm going to do here. So I just took out a few jump rings, and I am going to add my lobster claw clasp on one side. Whoops, let me turn my tool around. There we go. I'm going to add my lobster claw clasp on one side with a jump ring, and on the other side I'm going to load a few jump rings and make a chain. So just get them on there. That one's open a little bit. Just get a few, and so it'll be a little extender chain. I like styling and wearing options when I make jewelry. And when you string your jump rings together like this, it's amazing that they don't look like jump rings anymore. They really, it looks like a little jewelry chain. Okay. And this is just me, but I have a thing where I just do not like an extender chain with an empty link at the bottom. And there's so much to work with on these beautiful strands. So I want to make a charm that's going to go on a large jump ring around this bracelet. And I think there's just so much to choose from. And I also want to make a little small charm. Like, I think I'll use one of these and just make a little charm for the bottom of my link on my extender chain. Let me see if I have another little disc. Oh, right here. Little disc. Let me grab some head pins. Okay, I just grabbed a decorative head pin from my supplies just because everything is chunky on this, and it is going to look kind of like a cuff bracelet and not really a strung bracelet. So I just chose one of a chunky decorative head pin here, and I'm just going to stack some beads. That's really pretty. And then I'm just going to come in with my smallest size of my one-step looper, the 1.5 millimeter, and put a simple loop in the end of this charm and open it and add it to the last jump ring, or which is now a link on my cuff bracelet. Just make sure it's closed really well. So this bracelet is like really dramatic from all sides. I just love it. I just really love it. You know, if you have to go out, if you have to go somewhere and maybe you just don't have the dressy clothes for it, if you do a black top and dark pants and a bracelet like this, you instantly look elevated and dressed up. So now you can see how adjustable this is. This lobster claw clasp can go in any one of those rings, and then you have a little charm on your wrist. I really love it. And as I said, when I'm finished filming, I'm going to add a little bit of E6000 glue. I'm going to position my interlocking knot right where I want it and add a little bit of glue so that it stays exactly the way I want it. Now for this bracelet, which this could be a stack, like you could wear these together or separately, or wear this one with your watch and this one on your other hand. For this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create a charm, and you know, I'll just use the same head pin so they coordinate. I have a couple more of these, so I'll just create a charm with the same head pin. So let's see, let's choose for this guy what we want. Okay, I think I'm going to do that little bead stack, and just the black and the sparkling silver just looks great. And I'm going to do the same thing with my one-step looper. You could also do a wire wrapped loop here, and you can also do your simple loops with your pliers. I really like this tool. I get nice consistent loops. I can see that I have centered my loop on my stack of beads, and I'm gonna close this really well and thread it on to this large jump ring. Just gonna thread it right on, and I'm going to open this a little bit wider and get it over my bracelet so that I don't damage anything here. Let's see if that's probably not wide enough. And again, I have to just be careful because this is not really dry enough yet to really try it on or pull on it, but I let it go for a few hours, and so that is just so pretty. Look at that beautiful little charm on this. So I am going to take some pictures carefully and put them at the end of the video so you can see everything after the glue is dry. And I will put links in the description box to Jessie James beads. I thank you so much for watching. Check the description box for information on the supplies, and I hope everybody's safe and well and having fun on your beading mat. And I will see you in the next video. Ciao, creative friends.